Good morning, everyone. I hope we are all doing okay. Can everyone hear me? I hope so. Today, um, we're going to be sharing. I will be doing the introduction. As we know, we are in the Women Ladies Week. Today, I'll be taking you through the book of Mark, chapter 5, from verse 21 to 24. And here we have Jairus, and then we have the lady that had a severe bleeding. Personally, my sermon is entitled that when faith breaks through the barriers. I'll quickly take you to the book of Leviticus, chapter 15, verse 19, and we see that when a woman had a monthly period, she remained unclean for 7 days. Until Anyone who touches her is unclean until evening. How sad it is. And we see that this used to be so during the Jewish laws when they were at their when they were like still taking them very serious. So every woman who was like this was not supposed to be in public, was separated from even the family members, and they were not allowed to be in public. And a quick one, I'll take you through this. And in the book of Mark, chapter 5, when we read through it, we see that Jairus had a daughter that was very, very, very sick. And he was so much worried that he pressed through the crowd, and then he tried to find Jesus. And during this time, everyone had heard about Jesus and they knew the miracles that he used to perform. So every time he did that teaching, he used to have a lot of people all over him, and it was very hard for anyone to find him in person and talk to him, tell him what bothered them. But this man had to press through the crowd and to make sure that he hurries up to him, ask him to come with him home to help the precious daughter that was dying. He believed that if Jesus came to him, he also had faith, and he touched his daughter, he would be well. Uh, but mind you, we have this one woman who had suffered for 12 years. And I want to assume that Jairus' daughter was just a little girl, and Jairus had a good time with the daughter. They were all well. He had enjoyed, when you have a daughter and when you have children, there's that joy that they will always bring you. But I want to imagine this woman who had suffered for constant 12 years. Um, you know, every lady has experienced this. This thing makes you so uncomfortable for but just a few days. This woman had this for good 12 years. She was separated from people. Everyone she touched would be unclean, so she had that fear in her. So I don't have to be in people. I have to be, as Jairus enjoyed being with her daughter for the rest of her time, as he had the joy that parents have when they have their children. This woman here was suffering. She was spending every penny that she had to take to the doctors to make sure that she becomes okay, that it was all in vain. But there is one thing that amazes me is that when maybe she had heard about Jesus some time back, and when she heard that Jesus was just through within the area, she had this faith that this time I'm healed, because she knew that her healing had come her way. She had that faith that that one man will surely heal me. She had faith in her that the moment she even gets through the crowd, even if she just touches the hem his do I call it his cloak or his whatever he was wearing, she would be made well. And so why I chose this title is that to me it was like faith breaking through the barriers. And then one of the barriers, we know that she already had the Jewish law that was a barrier to between her and the public, that she was not supposed to go through anyone or like to reach out to anyone or touch anyone. It was a barrier. She was not supposed to reach out to anyone. I don't even know how she made it to the doctors, but it was one of the barriers that she could not reach Jesus. And see that one of the things that Jesus came to help us with, there were those complicated Jewish laws that they used to uphold, and they made God's law look so difficult and so hard for people to follow them. And that is why we see that the people, the Gentiles that knew about the Jewish laws, they knew how hard it was to follow them, because they knew that these people they tend to be too holy, in that any mistake that you make, you have broken the law, and by that time it was punishable. So she had one barrier that was this the Jewish law. And then another barrier, she knew herself that if she touched anyone, she would make them unclean. She had that fear in her. She had the fear that people they saw her as unclean, and so she was not supposed to be in public. So there was that fear in her that maybe what if people rebuke me? What if people see me before I reach him, and then they turn me or they tell me to go back? She had the fear in her that she may not even get close to people because she's already breaking the law. She's getting into people, squeezing them. I'm sure everyone that she squeezed that day became unclean. So that was also the fear in her. She was scared. She knew, how am I going to make it here? Because I'm unclean and I don't know how I'm going to make it. But God was with her. Because of her faith, she was already breaking through, and she was able to reach out to God. She also had another barrier of the big crowd. People were too congested. But remember, she was already weak. When you have this constant bleeding, of course, you don't have that energy even to move. She was weak. I'm sure she was like, she moved while she was bending. I don't know how she did it, but the people were many. And even Jesus said it after some time, but the disciples told him, you see how many people are. So it's hard to see who touched you. So the woman had to press into the crowd, move, and make sure that she reaches out to Jesus. And then those are the barriers that would make it so hard for this lady to reach out to God. But I'm very happy that what was making her move is just that faith that she had in her. How I pray that even us, whatever we feel like this time it is too hard, maybe when we mention the masters, someone says, no, I know the bachelor's was too hard for me, I cannot do the masters. It is high time that we change the way we see things. This woman has taught me a lot that as we see, sometimes you see things to be impossible. This woman, so she had the faith that a mere touch at Jesus's cloak should be healed, even without telling him anything, even without saying, I request you, like Jairus had mentioned that I request you to come home. She knew that that faith that she had, that I don't want to call it the little faith, because to me it seems to be that much faith, like maybe for our forefathers that they had the Abraham, the Enoch, Elijah, those people that walked with God. She had this big faith that just a mere touch should be made well. And I promise you that if we have that faith in God, everything will be made well for us. Everything will be okay. Everything will go well. The prayers that we feel that they are so hard, they cannot be answered, they will surely be answered. I remember I've been with one of my nieces, and she told me that I want to I want to live up to 1,000 years. And then I told her, like an adult also, I told her, I said, you know what? No, that one it is impossible. I told her we can at least live up to 100 years. And then she asked me, don't you have faith in God? And then I felt like I was so challenged. And then that is when I started thinking, this little girl has faith that she will go to heaven and then she will live to more than 1,000 years. I said, why don't I have that faith? I felt so much challenged and had to change my statement. Then I told her, you know what? You're right and I'm wrong. Yes, we can live to more than 1,000 years. I realized that this faith, it doesn't come either to someone who is old or young. It starts within you. So this little girl, to me, I always see her like someone who has like big faith. She knows that with God, everything is possible. So I want to stop here today so that we can join our rooms of prayer.